What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm back in another video. This time once again, we're going to talk about LeBron James. In LeBron's career, he's been to the NBA Finals an astounding 10 different times. And for his era, that is by far the most of any player in NBA history. He has more Finals appearances than most NBA teams. So with that being the case, let's look back at these 10 appearances and rank them from worst to best. And for my rankings, I look at the stats, the overall context, and iconic moments from all these series. So with that out of the way, let's get into the video and rank LeBron's 10 Finals appearances from worst to best. And speaking of worst, first up, we have LeBron's performance in the 2011 Finals. And this final series was LeBron's second in his career, and it was by far his worst ever performance. In this series, he averaged 17.8 points per game, a career low, 7.2 boards, 6.8 assists on 48, 32, and 60 splits, and the heavily favored Heat lost in 6 games to the Dallas Mavericks. Now stats-wise, obviously, it was a terrible series for LeBron James, but it's actually worse than the numbers show. In the big-time moments of this series in the fourth quarters, LeBron was absolutely atrocious, averaging 3.0 points per game on 33% shooting and 11.1% from 3. And when it comes to fourth quarter scoring average, he was behind Dirk, D. Wade, Jason Terry, as well as Chris Bosh, and he was tied with Mario Chalmers and Udonis Haslem. And even worse than that was LeBron's performances in games 3 through 5. In game 3, he had 17 points, in game 4, he had 8 points, and in game 5, once again, he had 17 points. And for a superstar caliber player, the best player in the NBA, one of the all-time greats, this series is a big black mark on LeBron's career and his overall legacy, and is by far his worst ever Finals performance. Now looking ahead at number 9, we have LeBron's performance in the 2007 Finals. At this point in LeBron's career, he was 22 years old and already established as one of the best players in the world. In the 2007 playoffs, LeBron, overall, was a legendary run. But in the Finals, it was a different story, as once again, he didn't play up to LeBron James standards. In this series, he averaged 22 points per game, 7.0 boards, 6.8 assists, on very below average, 36-20, and 69 splits, and Cleveland was swept 4 games to 0 by the San Antonio Spurs. Now in defense of LeBron James in this series, his teammate help wasn't exactly great. The Cavs team in total shot 39% from the field, and only had 2 teammates in double figures, that being GOODEN and GIBSON. And you combine that with the Spurs defense, who was the best in the NBA, and it was bound to be a tough series for young LeBron James.
Great job, man. Good job. Hey, man, I love how you're on 15 minutes. Stay that way, man. Stay that way. We're going to drive these guys. This is going to be your league in a little while. But I appreciate you giving us this year.
Now looking at number 8, we have the 2014 Finals. In this series, LeBron James, once again, didn't have the most stacked roster. He had superstar name value, but his teammates weren't great in this series. And for the most part, LeBron was the only Heat player playing up to standards. As in this series, he averaged 28.2 points per game, 7.8 boards, 4.0 assists, on pretty insane 57, 52, and 79 splits. But even with LeBron's great play, his Heat team lost in 5 games, once again to the San Antonio Spurs. And a theme of LeBron's career is not having enough help. And once again in this series, his 2 All-Star teammates didn't play great. D. Wade averaged 15.2 points per game, and Chris Bosh averaged 14 a game. And once again, this Spurs team was a top defensive team in the league. They had Kawhi Leonard as well as Tim Duncan and a host of other great defenders. And with that being the case, the Heat lost this series by a record margin. And really, games 1, 3, 4, and 5 weren't even close, and Miami lost all those games by 15 plus points. Now looking at number 7, we have LeBron's performance in the 2018 Finals. In this series, once again, LeBron James is playing with a subpar roster.
Whatever LeBron needs, we'll get it done.
As long as what he needs isn't basketball.
But we've got everything else covered.
Every time LeBron makes a free throw, I'm right there with that high five like, there you go, LeBron.
Now even with that being the case, LeBron in the series individually played fantastic, averaging 34 points per game, 8.5 boards, 10.0 assists on 53, 33, and 84 splits. But unfortunately, Cleveland was swept 4-0. And of course, the biggest moment from this series was in Game 1, as LeBron had 51, 8, and 8, but unfortunately that masterpiece game was ruined by J.R. Smith.
Great job from Smith to get the rebound, but dribble it away. And Hill could not get off a quality shot.
And of course, the J.R. Smith blunder is pretty tragic, but I mean, for this series, did anyone think Cleveland was winning 4 games versus that Warriors team? It was highly unlikely, and even if they won Game 1, they were not winning this series, despite LeBron James being individually dominant. Now at the halfway point, we get to number 6, which is LeBron's performance in the 2017 Finals. And once again, LeBron, the odds were against him, as Golden State had KD, Steph, Draymond, as well as Andre Iguodala. But even with that stacked roster and one of the best defensive teams in the league, LeBron simply had his way with this Golden State team. As in the series, he averaged 33, 12, and 10 on 56, 38, and 65 splits. Now unfortunately Cleveland, they still lost this series in 5 games, giving Golden State their only loss to the playoffs in Game 4. Until this day, I think the 2017 Finals were much closer and more competitive than people remember. And the game I look to is in Game 3, where Cleveland had a big lead in the 4th quarter. But in the closing minutes, they absolutely folded and gave away a sure victory to that Golden State team. And once again, LeBron in this series individually, he was the best player on the floor and the first player ever to have a triple-double in the NBA Finals. So 2017 is kind of bittersweet, as LeBron once again played great, but his team lost in epic fashion. Now looking at number 5, we had LeBron's performance in the 2015 Finals. And personally, this is one of my favorite LeBron series ever, as once again, his back was against the wall. As in this series, there was no Kevin Love, and Kyrie was injured after Game 1. And stats-wise for LeBron in this series, he averaged 35.8 points per game, 13.3 boards, 8.8 assists on 40, 31, and 68 splits, and Cleveland lost in 6 to Golden State. Also, one thing I have to note in this series, LeBron had 3 40-point games, the first time he'd done that in his career. And that 35.8 scoring average is still the highest LeBron James in a final series. And if you want to know how hard he carried this Cavaliers team, he was responsible for 60% of their overall offense and their points generated. And his teammate help once again was not great. He had Timothy Mozgov averaging 14, J.R. Smith averaging 11, and Tristan Thompson averaging 10. Now looking on number 4, with the 2012 Finals, LeBron's first ever championship. And this series versus Oklahoma City was a pretty odd series. As this LeBron, he won his first championship, but overall in this series, there was no iconic moment for LeBron James or this Heat team. And for the series, they lost Game 1 and won 4 straight games in pretty dominant fashion. In part because they had LeBron James, and also because they are the more experienced team compared to the young OKC Thunder. And in Game 5 of Miami, the closeout game, LeBron had 26, 13, and 11, and secured his first ever Finals MVP. And if you look at the stats in total, LeBron in this series once again played very, very well, averaging 28, 10, and 7 on 47, 18, and 83 splits. As you guys know, Miami won in 5 games over OKC. And I think historically and context-wise, this 2012 championship doesn't rank as high as LeBron's other championships in my own personal book if you look solely at the NBA Finals and how he played. Now getting to the top 3, at number 3, we have LeBron's performance in the 2020 Finals. And this final series gets a lot of unwarranted hate by a variety of NBA fans. Mainly for 2 reasons: there were no fans, and they were playing the Disney bubble, and this championship is coined a Mickey Mouse ring. Now, even with all that being said, serious NBA fans definitely count this championship, and they admire how great LeBron James played. As in this series, he averaged 29.8 points per game, 11.8 boards, 8.5 assists on 59, 41, and 67 splits, and Lakers beat the Heat in 6 games. And the biggest moment for LeBron in the series came in Game 5, as he had 40 points, 13 boards, and 7 assists on 71% shooting. But once again, one of his teammates wouldn't step up in the big-time moments.
The screen, James goes the other way, drives down the lane, back out to Green. Green for 3. Oh my God, you good. Get up on LeBron! Throws it inside. What the fuck out of bounds?
And it is pretty unfortunate LA lost that game, but in Game 6, LeBron once again came back strong, having 28, 14, and 10, and LA absolutely destroyed the Heat. And with LeBron winning this championship, he actually made some big-time history, becoming the first player ever to win 3 Finals MVPs with 3 different teams. And also, one thing I have to note in this series, LeBron was playing with Anthony Davis. But even with that being the case, LeBron was the best player on the floor for this Lakers team, as he led them in points, assists, rebounds, as well as threes. That's why I put LeBron's 2020 Finals at the number 3 spot on my list. Now looking ahead at number 2, we have LeBron's performance in the 2013 Finals. And this right here was LeBron's second championship and his first ever back-to-back ring. Now in this series, most fans forget the first half of the series, as LeBron in the first 3 games didn't play up to LeBron James standards, having 18 points, 17 points, and 15 points. But as they say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And in Game 6 in the 4th quarter, LeBron stepped up in a big-time way, having 16 points, a game high, outscoring his Heat team, who had 14 by themselves. And as you guys know in this game, Ray Allen hit a big-time 3 to force a Game 7. Now in Game 7, LeBron had a very underrated game, having 37 points, 12 boards and 4 assists on 52% shooting. And probably the most forgotten shot of the finals in the 2010s is the dagger LeBron hit late in that game to effectively seal the championship. And if you look at the overall numbers in this series, LeBron, as usual, played great, averaging 25, 11, and 7 on 44, 35, and 80 splits. But those numbers right there are not the reason I rank this series so high. It's because of that Game 6 and Game 7 performance and how LeBron played in the clutch time moments. And keep in mind at this point, LeBron, after winning the championship in 2012, still had a ton of pressure to repeat with his stacked Heat team. And the Skip Bayless choker narrative was slowly fading away due to these big-time performances on the biggest stage. Now at the number 1 spot, I'm sure you could have guessed, we had LeBron's performance in the 2016 Finals. And this 2016 championship is by far LeBron's most meaningful ring, as he not only won his first championship with Cleveland, he was also the driving force of the first ever 3-1 comeback in the NBA Finals. And stats-wise, once again, this series is not really important, but LeBron still played tremendously well, averaging 29, 11, and 9 on 49, 37, and 72 splits. What really matters is how LeBron played in the biggest games and the biggest moments. After going down 3-1, LeBron had back-to-back 41-point games, one of only a handful of players to do that in NBA history. And in Game 7 once again, LeBron played spectacular, having 27, 11, and 11, and of course the iconic block on Andre Iguodala that will be replayed for 100 years. And it is kind of special LeBron, his best ever play is a defensive play, as most people think of LeBron as a great dominant offensive player, which he is, but his best ever moment, his best ever play was on the defensive end. That's truly something special. So that right there is the end of the video, and that was my rankings of LeBron's 10 Finals appearances from worst to best. Let me know your guys' thoughts, and as always, thank you guys for watching. I really enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.